Welcome back. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Jessica Pidoux. It's really a pity that you can't be here, but thanks to technology and the capabilities of Zoom, we are going to see you. So cool to have you here, even only in a digital way. Jessica pursued a PhD at the EPFL, where she combined sociological analysis about dating practices in the digital realm with digital methods as well. So it's basically, she's like working on the digital with digital methods and thinking about the digital. So she's basically 3 times digital. And within this research, she dealt with human-machine interactions as well as design studies. We already had some presentations with regards to design from other perspectives. So it's going to be great to see basically your approach to it. And I had the extreme pleasure to co-organize the Critique Digital. You can see here, with Jessica, and she also managed to prepare a report about this event. So I know it's great to work with you. Currently, Jessica is at Sciences Po, the well-renowned institution in Paris, for a postdoc, and she's working as part of the QUIZO project's collaborative engagement on societal issues. And we're really eager to hear your talk. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. I see you cannot see me, but I'm here with you.
Now we can see you perfectly.
Yeah, no? Okay. So yeah, I'm very sorry I'm not there. I had some issues with my identity cards, you know, part of being a foreigner, but I'm also sorry for me that I'm not there with you. So I'll do my best. So this presentation is good, dynamic, although it's digital. I'll start sharing my screen. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so as you saw, this is the title of my presentation today based on my thesis research at the EPFL. It's entitled Qualitative and Quantitative Methods for Situating Matching Processes. And in there, I make a comparative analysis of algorithmic development practices and also dating practice from users. So I'm also, just to complete the presentations Tobias did, I am director of Personal Data IO, where we actually make data governance models or data trust for managing personal data in different ways. First, an introduction about the online dating phenomenon that I was studying during my thesis. Dating apps for finding a partner are influencing demography today. 20% of Swiss adults are in a relationship with somebody they met online. And 14% of French adults have used a dating app. And today this has increased significantly. And in the United States, 46% of adults have used a dating app. Online dating also has an impact on economy. Now the dating industry is well established in the stock exchange, and you can find brand agglomerations of 30, 40 apps like in the Match group or the Meet group. And finally, online dating, it has also an impact on technology and innovation. In general, we can find more than 9,000 mobile dating apps in the App Store and Play Store and Apple Store. And to give you an idea, Tinder, which is the most representative dating app of this phenomenon, is the most downloaded dating app in mobile stores. It is actually the second one most downloaded after Netflix. And today it has more than 56 million of users, and the app is used in 190 countries. But I want to tell you also my focus more precisely. Is it online dating? Is it matching algorithms? I actually make a switch from online dating to matching algorithms, and specific type of matching algorithms, which are reciprocated matching systems. This means that the matching systems works in two ways. Here we can find an example of a website and mobile app that is called Parship. It is used in Switzerland, Austria, Germany. And we can see actually that a user, when is registering, the person has to fill in hobbies, whether the person dances, makes photography, readings, sports, what's his or her food preferences, the travels travel types that the person likes. So a lot of questions to fill in. These are all variables that are going to fit an algorithmic system. And what happens also in a dating apps is that after you register and you describe yourself, you also have to describe the person you would like to meet. And this is where the two-way matching system comes in. You say who are you, who would you like, and the other person will do the same. This is very different to a matching or recommendation systems like Amazon, Netflix, and so on. And also what the shift I'm doing when I studied online dating is that I don't focus only on one perspective, but in multiple perspectives. So I wanted to know how the matching system is built by interviewing developers. I wanted to also see how it happens from the perspective of the interfaces, and then also the practices of users with whom I conducted interviews. I will give you more detail on this data in the methods section. So here we can see now better the matching systems as it operates on a dating app. First, we have in gray the graph of Tinder's matching system. It is extracted from their patent, where actually it can be quite old because you see these old computers and so, but the important thing here is to see how humans and non-humans machine techniques are involved together in the same system to create a matching on a dating app. We can see the users from two perspectives, from one side of the computer and the other side, another person, the network of the system that stores the data into a machine server with its materiality. And you can see the database down, where all the users, what they're producing as behavior and declarative data is being stored, but also related between each other. And then we see the profile page I presented you. This is a main mediation that I'm analyzing actually, because this is the interface that is feeding the algorithms, understanding what the user likes, what the user is doing on the app, and then communicating back with the developers of the matching system. And finally, where we see the 84%, this is what you can get as a result of a matching recommendation system as partnership. After you answered to different questions, you interacted with other profiles, you can actually get a score about your compatibility between the user, between yourself and the user you are browsing the profile. So now I'll tell you more about my research problem. What we see in the state of the art, more broadly online dating literature, is that dating apps favor relationships and couples' socioeconomic diversity. This is done by a Swiss demographist in Geneva. Then other researchers like Bergström in France, they show that dating is a practice that is disembedded from social spheres, meaning that online dating became a privatized practice from your phone, from your website and your computer. It's actually disconnecting us from the traditional social interactions for finding a partner. And another main reference in the literature is Eva Illouz, who says that from a Marxist perspective, that modern sexuality is a new separate sphere of consumption from romantic love. And what I try to do seeing this is that I try to build a bridge between social sciences perspective and computer sciences perspective, because we can clearly see a dissociation between the technical design of apps and the social practices. And on one side, the social sciences show that are looking actually for the transformation on dating practices and made choice. And on the other hand, computer scientists are looking to optimize dating app recommendation systems. My research question more specifically is then, in a situation involving entangled relations between humans, like developers, users, and non-human actors, like interfaces, matching algorithmic systems, how are actors learning to communicate in order to establish techniques and practices in online dating? So as you see here, this is a very science and technology studies approach, where my focus was mainly in the mediations and relations that are happening, being built or are in the making between the different actors of online dating phenomenon. My contributions are a conceptual and methodological framework issued from social sciences and data science. I created a methodology that helps in creating comparative observations for social scientists, usually focus on case studies, single case studies. I also contribute for data scientists, as I actually extract and study and show the common sense that is built with data, and how this common sense is related with dynamic processes on the dating apps. And finally, I contribute with empirical evidence on the conventions that build the reputation economy, also called attention economy today, and the made choice preferences. So I give a plurality of dating practices in the making. I contribute, let's say, what sociology of matching. And this is what I will show you now. You can see here that I changed from a linear process between humans and non-humans to a more dynamic process, a matching learning as a process, as I call it, where you can see the arrows connecting different actors. And this is mainly what I will try to show you today is how you can create a reciprocated view on the perception and interaction between different actors. And in this way, my methodology contributes to observing which dynamics to study, how we observe those dynamics. And in that sense, what I understand as a matching algorithmic process is not just the matching, just the algorithm or opening the black box, but actually understanding what is at the intersection of different actors that finally build a matching process. And I will go later onto the issue here. As you see in the middle of the graph, there is no connection between developers and users. And this is one of my main results that I will develop. So because here we're interested in the methods, I will spend some time explaining you the concepts, my methods, and the data I use in my research. As I told you, matching for me means different standpoints. So first, I analyze the graphical user interfaces based on a method developed by Dominique Boulier, which is actually, it consists on first seeing the diversity of dating experiences that are out there, and then analyzing in detail in a qualitative way the functional descriptions of these apps or the dating experiences. So this was mainly first a manual work extracting all the affordances, all the variables, all the variable input values that I observed while registering on dating apps on 29 different platforms, websites, and mobile apps that exist in the market. And the selection process was based on their opposition. So if they had different features, different marketing strategies, they were targeting different sexual orientation users. And I also combined this with a quantitative study where I built classes of these affordances variables and variable input values with a hierarchical clustering. I did this work with data scientists. We calculated a Jacker index and then created some class that I will present you. And finally, I did also some descriptive statistics, which gives more a general view of how the dating apps structures are built. The second standpoint that I analyzed was the matching algorithmic systems, which was mainly a qualitative study. This is used in algorithmic studies where we analyze technical documentations. I analyze different type of documentation patterns. Also, I compare the observations in the patterns with the graphical user interface. I made a subject access request based on the GDPR and Swiss law for personal data protection. I requested my data to the dating apps. And I also analyzed the machine learning conferences of people working in the industry. I focused here on a case study on Tinder. Then third standpoint, the developers. I conducted interviews with 9 founders and developers in small companies, big companies, and new recent startups actually that were being developed. In total, they were building 10 platforms. And here I was mainly referring to Nicolas Auret, who did a sociological study on developers or of games, video games. And here the idea was to be part of the community. I have a technical background working in the industry. So I get into their daily practices through a reflexive discourse with them and also being, as I say, implicated in their, for example, how they manage developers' task, fixing bugs, and so. And finally, the last standpoint is the users, where I conducted also interviews with them, 40 users living in Switzerland. They used in total 26 different platforms, but it was a current practice to use 2, 3, even 4 dating apps at the same time. And from these interviews, I first extracted all the actions that were made in the dating app according to the affordances that I analyzed previously. I made them teach me how to use the app. So I created like a learning couple between the user and myself, and then also a setting where they were using the dating app simultaneously with me while teaching me. And this was very useful for actually seeing how they make sense of the affordances and the variables on the dating app. And this was actually made through a data coding process using NVivo software. And it was also actually allowed me to see the comparison between practices and between the platforms that they were using simultaneously. So now I will explain I will present you the major findings. As you saw, I have explored different perspectives. So I will do as much as I can in the 20 remaining minutes. I will start first with the graphical user interface analysis. And this is chapter 2 in my thesis, where you can find more details. Here, I wanted to study the dating market offer. So I was I was mainly focusing on the structures of the interfaces and how these structures program user attention and interaction. So first, when analyzing affordances, what we can see is that affordances are actions guiding the user, but also they are restrictions that tell the user what to do and not, or what they cannot do unless they pay to attract somebody. And in here, it was very related also to the sex of the user, because when you register as a male user, you have to pay in most of the dating apps. But when you register as a woman, you don't have to pay in most of the dating apps. When both users pay, then the man can pay more, and but can also have more possibilities of actions. So this is the structure of how you can attract somebody. Then when we analyze the variables, when you create a profile on a dating app, you are being represented as a user. And in here, we can see how the apps define attractiveness. They don't look just how you can define yourself. It's really, they are predefining who is attractive according to which variables. And then when we go to another level of analysis, the input values, this is what you can fill in. For example, a variable on a profile page is what is your body type. Then the input values is I am fit, I am thin, I am curvy, so these are the input values that show on the dating apps that there is a definition of female's body that is very heterosexual oriented. You have these social norms of how a heterosexual a woman should look like, and you can find it on the dating apps. Female bodies is mainly eroticized by their hair, by their the upper body, actually, their eyes and their hair and their breast. So first results of the affordance analysis. Here we can see a fine-grained analysis of the affordances. These are all the actions and restrictions you can do in the dating apps. These are this is the distribution of over 84 affordances, and you can see at the top very basic actions like creating your profile, where you declare the demographic data, age, sex, geolocation. But the more you go down, you can see very fine-grained actions, like, for example, linking your profile to another friend's profile. This is used for polyamorous dating apps. You can also stream videos, and this makes you earn money. You can also make some profiles, pictures private, or you can decide to share them. So this is actually confirming what previous studies have said about dating apps, that, but it's also an extension, because I do it in a quantitative way, in a comparative way. And I also showed that dating apps is not mainly a geosocial and photo-oriented experience. It's actually broader than that as an experience. And this is what engages you on the dating app to spend more time. Here is the result from the hierarchical clustering, where I made a partition between two different classes, list view dating and match dating. And yeah, you can see on the x-axis all the dating apps and websites that I studied. I will show you here two main examples of these classes. You have Adopt and Make, which is the list view dating experience. This is also typical dating apps, like this one is célibataire.ch, also Partship, and these are mainly apps designed for a website format. Here you can see that all profiles are immediately accessible. You see if they're available for discussion, you see their profile pictures, you have a research bar to search for profiles. And on the other hand, you have the match dating experience, where you can see Tinder. It's mainly the format retaken by all the mobile dating apps. And the difference is that you see the pictures one by one after another one. And you mainly decide if you like or not the picture. And what happens here is that this conventional experience of match dating is going to program the user attention in a very specific way. It's first an individual evaluation. The evaluation has to be made in very, very fast speed. And this produces an intensity, and it is what produces excitement to evaluate the profiles and stay in the dating apps. Here we see as a cognitive impact, actually, you don't have to focus on evaluating in detail one person. There's no memory required from you. You can do 100 or even 1,000 profile swiping per day. And finally, you can find that dating as a financial plan, because you mainly see the demographic information of the person, where the person studies or works, and also you have the geolocation. Then the second class is the list view dating conventional experience, where the attention is programmed more in a loyalty way or immersive way. This means that you have to spend more time there to get to know more the person. Here you can find more actions to do, to filter, to find somebody. You see clearly a hierarchical ordering of the profiles. You see that profiles are available to discuss or not. This is the green button you can see next to the profile picture. Here it is, you are requested to spend more time. You have long questionnaires to read about the personality of the person, also sexual preferences, and you have an immediate accessibility to the profiles. In contrast to Tinder, you don't know how many people is out there, right? And here you can compare one profile next to the other one, which also creates a different experience. And then it is also required from the user to do more tasks to filter, to find, as I said. You can filter by age, by availability, is the person connected or not, and other variables that I will show you now. Here is the second level of analysis I did, the variables in the profile page when you are registering and when you're searching another person. This is made on a sample of 317 variables that I call phenotype, as they are explicit in the interface, although the app can collect more, of course, without you seeing it. And in these 22 dating apps, we can see that there are some apps that have extreme long questionnaires, like Adult Friend Finder on the top, and then at the end, apps with very little variables like Pure or Tomorrow. I created, again, a classification of these apps, but from a bottom-up approach, actually, based on the variables that are available on the interface structures. And there are 9 classes that I created based on the literature. This is concepts coming from sociology, psychology, that allowed me to understand better the variables. For example, coping means these apps are adding variables to solve problems between the potential relationship on the dating apps. You have demographic data, of course. You have individual capital. These are also categories that I transform. I adapted to my own definition with what I was observing, but it was referring mainly to Bourdieu. And then I created a new partition of 4 classes of coming from these variables, where actually their differences come on the quantity of data of variables, and also what they were the variables mean actually to register or to create a profile or to search somebody. So these are the classes: communitarian, sex-driven, with a lot of sexual preference variables; quick dating, few variables, mainly demographic; full commitment, a lot of variables from different topics, psychological, sexuality; and finally diversity. These are apps that have not too many variables and they find themselves more open, asking for political orientation, sexual orientation. So we see that the segmentation of preferences for finding a partner is already made from this user profile page. And it's more than marketing, as other studies have shown. And it is not only sexual consumption, but you can actually define different experiences from the user profile as you present yourself to find somebody else. This is again an example of a full commitment app class. I show it earlier, célibataire.ch, which is very similar to this, to Adopt a Mec. Here I show you that actually after filling in those variables, this is what is going to produce a popularity score about yourself. And this is based also on how many emails you receive or send, how many profile views people make on your profile, actually, how many profiles you visit as well. This also creates a research possibility on the top, because the variables that you are filling in here, the values that you give, is going to create a classification of yourself that allows others to find you. Now, the study of developers' practices through interviews. My main results were that actually developers act as translators of dating dating experiences, meaning that they have to interpret what the marketing department wants, what the users are providing as feedback on the traces that are collected by the system, to create a continuous adaptation of the app, of the matching system, that is actually a big tension for them. Either add more variables because the user is not satisfied, or reduce the variables because the server will crash then. And in this sense, they actually are the main actor for building this reality reduction that is necessary between a computer system and that is trying to understand social interactions in offline context. Also, a main result is that developers use their personal experiences for modeling the user. And this is an informal method that is already identified in other contexts in the industry by Madeleine Acrish. She develops the I methodology, where here what I showed is that this I methodology is reproducing stereotypes of these developers into the profile page, which already conditions what you can obtain as a algorithmic output. Then what we can also observe in the development practices is that they imitate the successful dating apps, or they counter-imitate it to try to do something new opposed to it. For example, Grindr, which is a main app for gay men, and then Tinder, which is a main generalistic app used by mainly heterosexual users. They are very similar. They copy the geolocation feature, the swiping feature, and then they become the role models of other entrepreneurs and dating app structures. So in here we see actually that the developers are involved in socio-technical structures that amplify stereotypes, that amplify the relationship of the models of relationship that we embed in these techniques. And also we can see a reduction of the innovation possibilities in the industry. Now, the matching process that I analyzed based on Tinder, we can see that from the patents, there is a constructed ranking for actually ordering the profiles that you see presented on the app. So although we can see from the interface and the affordances that there is a random presentation of profiles, one after another one, actually each profile gets a score best based on the behavior of the user, and this will create competitiveness between users when they try to understand that not everybody is at the same position, but you can see maybe more attractive or more popular people at the top of the result list, but then you can see other ones that have less chance because they get less likes and they get to be at the bottom of the result list. And this is mainly because the design of the interface and the design of the algorithmic system that is using neural networks is based on the likes. They make inferences from the likes to know about your preferences and to know about your characteristics. And this creates a polarization for users' practices where you define attractiveness based on yes or no, like or dislike. And users finally integrate this polarization into their speech, into their actions, even when they go on an offline date. And finally, also we observe that Tinder creates algorithmic bubbles according to an average idealized self, as they take the mean of the past likes you gave on the profiles. So you're gonna always be presented to somebody more or less similar, reproducing this way a patriarchal model, because it takes into account the majority of the heterosexual population that is in there. And it is based on a sex asymmetry because what I observed was that younger women were presented to older men, young women presented to older men, which men were having actually a better education or socioeconomic status than the women. So in that sense, it's not, I'm not saying that Tinder is creating these biases. These biases can come from society, from an organized society, but Tinder is amplifying, and this is what algorithms can do when they are embedded in a materialized technique. They amplify biases in society. So now that I have 5 minutes left, I will not present you the results of the users' interviews, but I will go directly into my conclusions. So first, dating apps are a medium that predefines the learning framework of actors, dating practices, both online and offline. And I insist on the medium because we see in previous studies that dating apps can be considered as a space, as a social space or a geolocated space. But actually, when I study the affordances, the variables, we can see that this is more than just geolocation actually fits the matching experience, what you can get as a date, who you can meet or not. And this goes into through the interface, which is a main intermediary in the matching process. And in this way, actually, users learn what they have to do online, to what to present, which attributes to show to others to be attractive, and what to evaluate, and how to seduce others. And they actually take it also to the offline experiences. Second conclusion, the conventional design of interfaces captures actors' attention in the app, which affects how they can get out of the app to engage in a relationship. As we know, dating mobile apps in general are based on a user engagement business model. And what happens here is that it's in conflict with what cares the most for the user is to engage in a relationship, whether it's sexual or long-term relationship. And finally, engineers and users learn to readjust their actions according to the machine, which is actually a human adaptation to the machine. And it's not the other way around. Social life is being reduced to the technical constraints of the machine. And I think this is a key conclusion more broadly for artificial intelligence systems, where we are trying to copy human intelligence, but actually what's happening, at least in the dating app case I study, is the other way around. So I finally developed today with a colleague, Pascal Kuntz, what we call interface studies. We observe different actors as to adopt the different standpoints involved in a matching process. And we take, as I show with the red dots, we take elements or actors at the interface of algorithmic processes, to understand a phenomenon. And I conclude with what I'm doing now, which is extreme citizen science in COESO in Sciences Po, where we study cooperation between scientists and society and civil society. And this is also very related to what I do in personal data, is we build data collectives. So now I am using everything that I research to engage with civil society. So we create communities of dating app users that do something else with their data. Thank you very much.